Up on Network Africa. As renewed fighting persists, a strike hits capital of Ethiopia's northern Tigray region. The World Health Organization says 1 million people have died of COVID-19 this year. Plus, the Horn of Africa on track for a failed rainy season. Thank you for joining us on Network Africa. I'm Anne Mwawadu. We begin in Ethiopia, where an airstrike hits Mekelle, the capital of Ethiopia's northern Tigray region. Local media controlled by the breakaway authorities blame the federal government for the attack. Tigray television showed images of damaged buildings and what appeared to be wounded people lying on the ground being attended to by medical personnel. An aid organization confirmed its staff in the region heard an explosion and anti-aircraft gunfire. Earlier on Friday, the Ethiopian government urged Tigrayan citizens in a statement to stay away from military and training facilities, saying that the government intended to take actions to target the military forces. In the meantime, the World Health Organization chief, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, has revealed that he's unable to send money to his starving relatives in Ethiopia's war-torn Tigray region. Dr. Tedros, a former Ethiopian health minister, during a press conference said that he has many relatives there and he wants to send them money, but he is unable to. He adds that he is even unaware of who is dead or alive. Since the war began in 2020, the region has been cut off from the outside world with no electricity and no phones. The internet and banking services are also unavailable there. Ethiopia's government has been accused of imposing an aid blockade on the region, which impeded crucial deliveries, something it blamed on the fighting. It is still not the first time Dr. Tedros, who is a former Ethiopian health minister, has spoken about the war. On Wednesday, he said the situation was worse than that in Ukraine. He even suggested that racism was behind the difference in the global response. And so far this year, 1 million people have died from COVID-19. That's according to the WHO boss, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, who says that 2.5 years into the pandemic, in his words, we have all the tools necessary to prevent these deaths. He's asking all governments to strengthen their efforts to vaccinate all health workers, older people, and others at the highest risk on the way to 70% vaccine coverage for the whole population. He adds that some countries with the lowest vaccination rates are now making up ground, especially in Africa.
We cannot say we're learning to live with COVID-19 when 1 million people have died with COVID-19 this year alone. When we are at 2.5 years into the pandemic and have all the tools necessary to prevent these deaths. Once again, we ask all governments to strengthen their efforts to vaccinate all health workers, older people, and others at the highest risk on the way to 70% vaccine coverage for the whole population. It's pleasing to see that some countries with the lowest vaccination rates are now making up ground, especially in Africa. It's especially pleasing to see that coverage of high-priority groups is improving, with many countries making impressive progress towards vaccinating 100% of health workers and 100% of older people. However, much more needs to be done.
And so far this year, 1 million people have died. Most votes in Angola. Let's head to Angola now, where the parliamentary elections have been counted and provisional results show that the ruling MPLA party is ahead of the 52% majority while their main opposition rivals have 42%. The Election Commission says 86% of the ballots had so far been counted, which suggested the former Marxist People's Movement for the Liberation of Angola is likely to extend its near 5-decade stint in power, giving President João Lourenço a second 5-year term. Political analysts believe that UNITA had its best ever chance of victory, yet as millions of youths left out of its oil-fueled booms were likely to express frustration with nearly 5 decades of the MPLA rule. And still talking politics, but this time in Kenya, the poll official who was murdered after the 9th August elections will be buried on Friday at his rural home in Machakos County in central Kenya. The tortured body of Daniel Muskoya was found near the Kilimanjaro along Kenya's southern border with Tanzania, some 200 kilometers from his base in the capital, Nairobi. Officials from the electoral agency held a peaceful demonstration in Nairobi on Thursday to protest over the killing of their colleague. They petitioned Parliament, the Director of Public Prosecution, and the police chief to ensure security for poll officials. The Electoral Commission chairman, Wafula Chebukati, has also asked investigating officers to expedite their probe into Mr. Musyoka's murder and charge those found culpable. In Ghana, shop owners have agreed to call for a proposed strike for next Monday, August the 29th. They have threatened to close their businesses to protest against the weakening of the country's currency, the cedi. On Thursday, Ghana's Union of Traders Associations met with the nation's Council of State, which advised the president on governance issues. According to Joseph Obeng, president of the Traders Association, the union is demonstrating against the government to show the extent of suffering over increasing interest rates and multiple taxes borne by traders. And joining us now for more is Joseph Paddy. He's a PRO, Ghana Union of Traders Association. Thank you very much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you for your viewers and your listeners.
Thank you. All right, talk to us about the outcome of Thursday's meeting between the union traders and the Council of State.
Right. Thank you very much once again. You know, we came out with a press release about 2 weeks ago, fortnight, about the bleeding of our businesses as a result of the depreciation of the cedi against the dollar that is hurting the business community. We came out with this press release thinking that we'll have a response from government. We didn't hear anything from government. So we came out with a press statement and have a press conference to drum home our displeasure about the activities of the business community that as a result of government policies that is not helping businesses. One, inflation that has risen to about 31.5%. Two, the reference rate, that's the policy rate from the Bank of Ghana, that has moved from 19 to 22, and the interest rate is about 35%. And we say, what kind of business are you going to do in the country with a 35% interest rate? And so we resolved to hit the ground by one, closing our shops. We had a roadmap. This is the first stage. So last Wednesday, we were called by the national security and they were told about the security implication. Yeah, we appreciate the security implication, but we also said that it's also hurting business. People are losing their businesses. People are losing capital. So let's put the two together. So in fact, national security pleaded with us to halt it. We refused to do that. So yesterday, we had a call from the Council of State who advised government. We had a lengthy conversation, about 6 hours conversation, a closed-door meeting. So they pleaded with us that we should give them an opportunity, give them a chance to talk to government and say they share in our plight, that whatever we spoke about, all these three interventions that we've spoken about is true. And therefore, they need to talk to government to see what we can do. They have the short-term measures, the medium, and the long-term. So yesterday, we formed a committee, a joint committee between the Council of State and the GUTA members. So on Monday, we are going to look into those activities. So what we said was that we are not going to stop with our action, but then we are suspending our action for 1 month. After 1 month, if nothing good comes out of government, has assured us that there's some $750 million coming from somewhere, and we are going to also have the cocoa syndicated loan that is going to shore up our forex. So hopefully in the shortest possible time. So we've had a roadmap. We want to see the short-term measures, and we want to see the medium-term and the long-term measures. Yes, one of the things we identified was that the Ghanaian. You see that what is happening now, because Ghana was downgraded, most of these foreign expatriates have taken their money out of the system. That is why it's putting pressure on the foreign exchange. So what can we do? And I'm not even talking about Ghana alone, even Africa continent. What can we do to empower the African, to empower the Ghanaian, to empower the Nigerian, so that they'll be economically empowered? So that if these expatriates go with their money, we can hold on to the shocks that the economy is going to suffer. So far, this is what we've done. So Monday, we are going to go for a meeting, and we believe that in the shortest possible, for the 1 month we are giving government ultimatum, if nothing good comes out of it, we'll come back to our proposal that we want to hit the ground and then demonstrate. In fact, we're going to do it for about a week, but upon consultation, we resolved to do it just for a day on Monday. And then the following week, we're going to go a nationwide, but we wanted to start from the capital, Accra. So, why we resolved to respond to this, the security, the Council of State, is that once upon a time we had an issue with the government, so they intervened, and then because the duty rate at the port was extremely high, they intervened, and then by their intervention, we got some respite. That's why they came with a benchmark, and it helped us. So we have to respond to them. That's what we did, but we've not stopped our intention. Just that we suspended it for now.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Joseph Paddy. He's a PRO Ghana Union of Traders Association. Thanks for your time on Network Africa.
Grateful.
The worst drought in the Horn of Africa is more than 40 years. It looks almost certain to persist as the World Meteorological Organization says the forecast for October to December show high chances of drier than average conditions. The latest outlook confirms the fear of aid agencies, which have already been warning for months now about the worsening consequences of the drought for Ethiopia, Somalia, and parts of Kenya, including a risk of famine for Somalia. The drought has coincided with a global rise in food and fuel prices, pushed up by the war in Ukraine that has now hit parts of Africa's hardest.
It pains me to be the bearer of bad news when millions of people in the region have already suffered the longest drought in 40 years. Sadly, our models show with a high degree of confidence that we are entering the fifth consecutive failed rainy season in the Horn of Africa. In Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia, we are on the brink of an unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe. So that is from the director of WMO's Regional Climate Center in East Africa. Predictions show high chances of drier than average conditions across most parts of the region. In particular, the drought-affected areas of Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia are expected to receive significantly below rainfall until the end of the year. Now, in the equatorial parts of the Great Horn of Africa, the October to December season contributes about 70% of the annual rainfall, especially in eastern Kenya. So, this deficit is really going to hit hard.
WHO is very concerned about this situation. It does lead to many families taking desperate measures to survive. Many thousands of people leave their homes in search of food, water, and pasture. 700,000 people are already facing famine in parts of Ethiopia, Somalia, and South Sudan.
Meanwhile, Niger has deployed rainmaking technology aimed at alleviating the effects of drought in the country. Weather authorities say something has to be done about the drought. The desert country has faced a food crisis for years because of extended dry spells. The induced rain technology involves using an aircraft to spray chemicals into clouds. The intervention is targeted areas where people farm, but some parts of the country have experienced flooding, further adding to the food crisis. On our Africa Tech segment, still to come, we find out how young Nigerian innovators are helping to combat stereotypes and and tackle the digital gender divide. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Back here in Nigeria, Taraba state government has promised to collaborate with the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, to clamp down on child traffickers in the state. The secretary to the Taraba state government, Mr. Anthony Jellison, reveals that the state is already domesticating the law with stiffer penalties on offenders.
National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons statistics for 2019 reveals that 61% of trafficking in Nigeria happens within the country, while 39% occurs across the border. In Taraba State in the northeast, the case is now endemic, as parents are allegedly found trading their children secretly due to poverty and desire for a greener pasture. This gathering is to set a machinery in motion to curb the growing trend, as the Chief of Mission International Organization for Migration insists that multiple strategies are required to tackle the menace.
From 2017 to date, IOM has facilitated the return of 27,000 stranded migrants of Nigerian origin from various countries around the world, many of whom were victims of trafficking and are reintegrated back to the communities and are provided with economic protection and psychosocial support, including indigenous of Taraba State.
For the Director General of NAPTIP, human trafficking is no longer a problem, but a crisis of national and international proportions.
Human trafficking in Nigeria is not a problem, it is a crisis, which has become an international and national concern, especially with the large number of Nigerians trapped in sexual and labor exploitation across the world. Human trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar global industry and second amongst transnational organized crime that has exerted high human cost, leaving many trapped in exploitative situations worldwide.
The Taraba government reveals that domestication of its Child Rights Act has led to the interception of about 80 trafficked children.
For the fight against human trafficking to be successful, it must first be waged at various levels of the family, village, town, and from the larger society. We need to synergize in order to be successful.
Hopefully, the collaboration between the Taraba state government and NAPTIP will drastically reduce cases of child trafficking, abuse, and forced labor in the state and across the country.
French President Emmanuel Macron has asked relations with Algeria to move beyond their painful shared history and look to the future. President Macron arrived in the country on Thursday, beginning a three-day visit aimed at easing the tripartite and boosting cooperation. During his meeting with President Abdelmajid Tebboune, both leaders agreed to give new impetus to the bilateral relations by surmounting the memory issue, referring to France's 132-year-long colonial rule of the North African country before opening new horizons for strategic cooperation. He also discussed ways of boosting bilateral cooperation in high-tech, cultural, and economic sectors, all to help improve the business climate in the region. The Algerian president confirmed that senior officials from both countries will exchange visits to continue the dialogue and enhance cooperation. Germany has signed an agreement to transfer ownership of 512 Benin bronzes, hailed as the largest return of cultural artifacts looted from the continent in the 19th century. This agreement was signed between the Foundation of Persian Cultural Heritage and Nigeria's National Commission for Museums and Monuments. According to that statement by the foundation, the first objects will be returned to Nigeria this year from the Ethnological Museum in Berlin. The Benin bronzes consists of thousands of metal sculptures and ivory carvings seized from the West African Kingdom of Benin in what is today Edo State in southern Nigeria by a British military force in 1897. There have been growing conversations about the existing gender gap in science and technology and how we can encourage more girls to take up STEM careers. In this next report, we take a look at how She Creates Camp is helping to combat stereotypes and tackling the digital gender divide.
Statistics from the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, state that globally, 18% of girls in tertiary education are pursuing STEM studies, compared to 35% of boys. This attests to the fact that gender gaps in aspirations and attitudes at secondary level affects choices at the tertiary level. And that is what the She Creates Camp is trying to change. Here, girls can develop an early interest in computer science, information technology, and other STEM-related careers. This helps combat stereotypes and tackles the digital gender divide.
What we're trying to achieve at the She Creates Camp is to introduce girls to the world of STEM, though we have broadened it to STEAM, so to also include arts as well. So science, technology, engineering, arts, and maths. And so we're introducing girls to those subjects in a very fun and engaging way. Ultimately, we want girls to seriously think about considering careers related to STEAM and also to have an idea how to incorporate STEAM into their learning and future careers as well. So even if they don't end up working in STEAM-related jobs, they are also able to apply the principles to whatever they might do in the future.
Renewable energy and electronics is the focus here, and the girls are building a phone power bank that's rechargeable with solar panels. For some of the girls, being equipped with tech skills will give them an edge in their chosen career paths.
I want to become a caterer, actually. And they've taught me that no matter what you want to become in life, still need technology. So before I wanted to change my mind, but I still want to go with the catering job because catering still requires technologies. At least the tap you are going to use is technology. Anything you want to use is technology. The machine you are going to use to bake the food is technology. So still, it still requires technology. I can even create my app online to show them that this is my food store. So there's nothing I cannot use technology for right now.
This training has really helped me a lot by telling me that there's nothing based on technology that a female cannot do. First of all, I'll be like, what will I use technology to do with oncology? And now I've learned that I can do it. I would like to create an app to help cancer patients because most of the cancer patients are always sad and depressed. But with that app, they'll be able to interact with people and they'll be happy. They'll find other cancer patients who they can interact with.
By grooming these girls in technology, the goal is to increase the number of women and girls working in tech-related fields.
So the reason that we are focusing on girls is because there is a large underrepresentation of women in science, technology, engineering, and maths-related courses in university and then also in the workplace as well. And science, technology, engineering, and maths, they are solving problems, day-to-day problems, and problems that are experienced by both men and women. So it's important that women are also part of the teams of people who are using these subjects to create and build the solutions.
Education and technology experts over the years have been lamenting the underrepresentation of women and girls in technology jobs. But with initiatives like the She Creates Camp, the digital gender bias and stereotypes can be reduced.
A ship of books that sails from one country to another called Logos Hope docked in Benghazi. For book lovers, thousands have been attracted to the floating library docks. Take a look.
Logos Hope, a floating international library, has docked at Benghazi port, attracting around 20,000 visitors, according to its supervisors. The floating book fair presented for nearly a week a large collection of books, including more than 5,000 titles.
Over 20,000 visitors already here in Benghazi, and we can see that the people of Benghazi are very, very happy to visit our ship, and our crew from 58 nations are also very happy to meet the Libyan people here in Benghazi on board the ship. They're coming to buy the books on board, many books, from books for small children right up to medical books, engineering books, computing books, accounting books, many, many different types.
Book topics range from science, sports, gastronomy, arts, medicine to dictionaries and languages in both Arabic and English.
The arrival of the ship or the floating library to the city of Benghazi is, of course, a big event, bringing about great attention and a very large number of citizens. I see this from two sides. Of course, I attended the opening and browsed the books, of course. Most of the books were in English because it's the language of science and is universally spoken. There are also many Arabic books. I bought 3 Arabic books on the first day, including Cultural Criticism and Realistic Vision in the Story of the Palestinians, and a third book related to sociology.
Volunteers from 58 different nationalities work on board the ship. Since 2009, it's been cruising to most international ports, loaded with tens of thousands of books to sell, and is classified as the largest mobile library in the world.
Quite interesting. Well, that's it on Network Africa for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu.